Hello everyone, my name is Roxanne and I'm going to be your study buddy for this Math 112 Statistics and Probability lesson video. So for today, I'm going to discuss random variables. So before dwelling on ano yung meaning ng random variables and like examples of it, we should first know ano yung meaning ng statistics and probability and the basic terms of it. So when we say statistics and probability, it is the science of conducting studies to collect, organize, summarize, analyze, and draw conclusions from data. So as you can see sa method pa lang, methods of statistics, which is the collection of data, organizing, summarizing, analyzing, and drawing conclusions from data. It has like the basic steps in research, in collection, organizing, summarizing, and whatnot. Because statistics is really used in research, and I've never seen like a single research without statistics on it. So yeah, statistics has the method of collecting of data, organizing data, summarizing data, analyzing data, and drawing conclusions from data. So for example, we want to know ano yung average height ng Filipino students. So di lang tayo pwede maghula, di tayo pwede mag-guess, di tayo pwede mag-assume na ganito-ganito ang average height ng Filipino students. We should conduct statistics. Uh, we should have like uh, a direct answer to your question, which is what is the average height of Filipino students. And to find the answer, we should go through statistics. So the methods of statistics, I mean. So like the collecting of data, organizing data, summarizing data, analyzing data, and then you conclude from the other methods. We could conclude ano yung average height ng Filipino students. So statistics is also defined as the science that studies data to be able to make a decision. So for example, you want to buy a certain product from a store, but then in every store they have like the same they like offer same offer the product that you want, and you can't really decide ano yung best store that you want to go to buy that product. So we could go through like the methods of statistics, which is like the collection of data, organizing data, summarizing data, analyze and draw conclusions from it. So for example, after collecting data, organizing, summarizing, analyzing, we analyzing data, we concluded na si store A sells a product at a cheaper rate than in store B. So therefore, we could buy the products in store A rather than store B because store A sells them at a cheaper rate than in store B. So we can say that statistics is very helpful when it comes to making decisions. So importance of statistics. Statistics enables us to characterize persons, objects, situations, and phenomena. So parang related siya sa example na binigay ko. So like what is the average height of Filipino students? What do students prefer? Do they prefer milk tea or chocolate? What would be the weather of tomorrow? Something like that. So statistics would help us determining those types of events. Statistics enables us to explain relationships among variables. So for example, we want to know the relationship between mental health and physical health. Bakit parang na-notice mo na people with bad mental health really experience bad physical conditions, something like that. So through statistics, we can explain the relationship between mental health and physical health, or like the variables that you want to know the relationship of. Statistics enables us to formulate objective assessments and comparisons. Statistics enables us to make evidence-based decisions and predictions. So, for example, you want to know like when will be the exact date for a lunar eclipse, something like that. So, through statistics, we can predict those types of events. So according to Blumen, Students study statistics for several reasons. So number one, like professional people, you must be able to read and understand the various statistical studies performed in your fields. To have this understanding, you must be knowledgeable about the vocabulary, symbols, concepts, and statistical procedures used in these studies. You may be called on to conduct research in your field since statistical procedures are basic to research, which I've already mentioned sa start lang. So to accomplish this, you must be able to design experiments, collect, organize, analyze, and summarize data, and possibly make reliable predictions or forecasts for future use. You must also be able to communicate the results of the study in your own words. And lastly, you can also use the knowledge gained from studying statistics to become better consumers and citizens. For example, you can make intelligent decisions about what products to purchase based on consumer studies, about government spending based on utilization studies, and so on. Related, somehow related siya sa sa example na ginawa ko about buying product from different stores, and then through statistics, we've concluded that store A is better kasi they sell at a cheaper rate than in store B. So statistics really helps us in making decisions and become better consumers and citizens. So we're going to move on sa questions. Like types of questions. So what is the differences between factual questions and statistical questions? So factual questions are questions that requires fact-based answers, and there is only one correct answer. So for example of this would be, who is the 2018 Miss Universe? What is the planet closest to the sun? Where is the Mayan volcano located? Like, where is Mount Everest located? What is the full name of Jose Rizal? So parang these are questions that have only one and factual na answer. Di lang siya, hula-hula. Everything. So, we're going to move on to statistical questions. So, statistical questions are questions that requires collection of data to answer questions. And these questions may have answers that vary. So, for example, what do Athenians prefer, coffee or milk tea? What is the satisfaction rate of the Filipinos to the current response of the administration to the pandemic? How many percent of ADSU SHS taking STEM strand will proceed to engineering? Like, what do students prefer, chocolate or donut? Something like that. So these questions, we can't hula-hula lang din. We can't hula. And the answers may vary. So my answer to this question would not be the same as yours. Some can say na students prefer chocolate instead of donut, and someone can say na students prefer donuts rather than chocolates. Something like that. So answers may really vary. So, and it really requires collection of data to answer a question. So, di lang siya hula-hula. I mean, two of these questions, di sila hula-hula because they require like a factual answers. So, factual questions, they only have one answer, require one answer, one factual answer. Okay. Statistical questions, you really have to you really have to do statistical methods, which is the collection of data, organizing data, summarizing data, analyzing data, and drawing conclusions from data to answer that specific questions. And the answers may vary to others. So we're going to go to basic terms in statistics now. So variables are characteristics that is observable or measurable in every unit of the universe. So variables like the hair length, the hair color, the breed of the dog, the temperature, the height of a person, something like that. So as long as it's like variables, as long as it's like characteristics that can be observable or measurable, then it's already considered as variables. So for data, these are the values that the variable can assume. So like I mentioned, a variable, for example, hair color, yeah, that's like the variable, the characteristic that is observable or measurable. But sa data, that the variable can assume. So there are like blondes, there are brown hair, there is also like black hair, there are also one with white, and so on. So those are data. These are like values that the variable can assume. So dataset, this is the collection of data values, and datum, each value in the dataset. So the plural version of datum is data. Just so you guys should know. So next, we have population, consists of all subjects that are being studied. So whatever subject you are studying on in an event or like in a research or something, it's already considered as a population. So other than population, we have sample, a subgroup of the population. So there are times na you really cannot study the whole population. For example, you want to know like the average height of Zamboanga students, ganyan. You can, but it would take a lot of time on like knowing like the height of every Zamboanga City students. So that's why we have samples, which is the subgroup of the population. So taking these students from this school, taking these students from this school, like taking samples from different schools na nasa Zamboanga City lang, because we are like determining the average height of a student in Zamboanga City. So we also have sampling, which is the process of selecting the sample. We can't bakit kasi may process pa of selecting the sample, because we can't just pick na, pipili ako ng 20 people sa ADSO, pipili din ako ng 30 sa ibang school, ganyan. Hindi lang siya ganyan. Okay, there's like really a process on selecting specific samples of the population that you really want to study on, para di siya unorganized, something like that. So we have like data collection techniques as well. So we also have like, for example, the most common one, survey questionnaires. So it could either be you giving a paper and the subjects answering it, or through Google form, because we really can't get outside because of the pandemic and all of that. So yeah, there is Google form, there's like papers and whatnot. It really requires the subjects to answer specific questions for your research or something like that. And another data collection techniques will be interviews. So these will be like one-on-one interviews. The subject doesn't need to write anything. It's more on the person who's in charge of the interview, or like the researcher themselves writing. So they would like ask questions. The researchers would ask questions, and the subjects will answer back. And then yung answers ng subject na yun, susulat ni researcher sa papel nila, or something like that. So that's how interviews work. So we also have direct observation too. We can like see this on like documentaries, I could say. For example, you like observing the characteristics of a frog, let's say. So you put like a frog on a very clear cylinder, clear cage, I would say, and then you just observe it. Like, of course, di mag-answer yung subject, di din magko-question yung researcher. It's really just observing, like just matching with the example that I said, like observing the characteristics of the frog. So you just observe the frog, and then you write down ano yung observations, ano yung characteristics na ginagawa ng frog na nakikita mo from that observation alone. So you just look at the frog for how many hours. That's all. There's also that. There's also like focus group discussions. There are also case studies. There are also documents and records. So these are like some of the data collection techniques that are used in the research or like statistics. So now we can move on the types of variables. So there are like two types of variables. So we have qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative are variables that can be placed into distinct categories according to some characteristics or attribute. So these are like also called as categorical variables. So for example, for example for example, for qualitative variables would be gender, would be religious affiliations or preferred color. Basta they are like variables that can be categorized through certain characteristics or attributes of the uh, of the subjects that you want to study on or something like that. So and then now we have quantitative variables. So these are variables that are numerical and can be ordered or ranked. These are countable or measurable, and these are also called as numeric variables. So quantitative, more on numbers. So for example, age, height, weight, like body temperature, something like that. So the main difference is like qualitative is categorical. They have certain characteristics that can be categorized, and while quantitative are numbers. Yeah. So the types of there are also like two types for quantitative variables. So there are also discrete variables and there are continuous variables. So discrete variables are obtained by counting. So for example, number of children in the family, number of students in the classroom, number of messages received in a day, number of heart reacts in a post, it's FB post, something like that. So they can be countable. So other than discrete variables, we also have continuous variables, which is obtained by measuring. So these are like variables that have like decimals on it. So for example, height, weight, body temperature, and something like that. Like the number one hint would be like discrete variables, like the examples of discrete variables, they usually have like number of sa starting pa lang. So you can see like sa examples sa learning 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 kit ng Math 112, like discrete variables really start with number of, but not all discrete variables start with number of. There may be times na amount of, but yeah, but usually they usually start with number of in discrete variables. And continuous variables, yeah, they're just like basta number siya, like fractions with decimals, something like that. They can't be countable, so they're like measurable. So next, we have like this is like the visual presentation of the things that I've discussed. So this is like the type, this is the variable. So ano yung meaning ng variable? It's like uh, it's a thing that can be measurable or observable in every unit of the unit universe. So these are like the variables, and the two types of variables would be qualitative variable. So these are also called as categorical. Yeah, categorical variables. So uh, for this variable, meron siyang specific na characteristic that can be uh, grouped, that can be categorized. While quantitative variables, these are numbers. Numbers can be countable, can be measurable, and we've two types of quantitative would be discrete and continuous. So discrete is like countable numbers, and continuous is the ones with like decimals and like fractions. So age, weight, height, something like that. Discrete is like very countable. Now we can move on to probability, the meaning of probability. So probability is primarily concerned with predicting chances, especially the occurrence of an event. So more on prediction yun, probability. And in the right side, we have like basic terms in probability. So we have experiment, which is the probability activity. So the activity that you're going to do. The outcome is the result of an experiment. So After every experiment, there's always an outcome. And then we have outcome space or sample space. This is the set of all possible outcomes. So, in every experiment, there's always an outcome. Pero yung outcome nila, they're never the same. There's always like various outcomes coming from one experiment only. So, there are times na ganyan siya. So now we can move on our main point of our lesson 1, which is random variable. So random variable is a variable whose values depend on the outcomes of an experiment. It is a function that maps the outcomes of an experiment to real numbers and is usually denoted by a capital letter. So we can see dito, these are like examples of complete random variables. So A is equals to sum of numbers that turn up when a pair of dice is tossed. D is equals to distance leaped in meters by a randomly selected long jumper. And number of Tagalog movies when 2 movies are randomly chosen from 3 Tagalog movies and 4 Indian movies. So these are complete random variables. So you may be thinking, ano yung differences between random variable and the variable itself? So in random variables, there's like a specific thing. There's like a specific outcome that you want to achieve. Pero, possibility lang siya. Possibility lang siya. Like, for example, the number 1. So for number 1, the variable would be the numbers that turn up when a pair of dice is tossed. So, the numbers that turn up. So, yun na yung variable. Pero, bakit siya naging random variable is because nilagay mo yung sum of the variable. So, mayroon like specific thing that you want to achieve from the numbers that turn up when a pair of dice is tossed. So, when a pair of dice is tossed is a experiment. So, ano yung differences of complete random variables and random variables is that, okay, so this is the random variable. Ito lang, the sum of the numbers that turn up. Di included yung capital letter here. And then, a pair of dice is tossed. This is our experiment. Yeah, this is our experiment. So, when a random variable is present in a sentence and an experiment is also present, so that means magiging complete random variable siya. Pero always remember that it is usually denoted with a capital letter of your choice. So it can be X, it could be whatever letter there is. But yeah, magiging complete random variable siya if the random variable and the experiment is present. And also the capital letter. Don't forget that. So, what would be the random variable for number 2 is the distance leaped in meters. Distance leaped in meters by a randomly selected long jumper. Randomly selected long jumper would be our experiment. And then this one would be our random variable. And then number 3, the number of Tagalog movies. So this is the random variable. And then the 2 movies are randomly chosen from 3 Tagalog movies and 4 Indian movies. So this is like an experiment. So as you can see, bakit lahat sila complete random variable? It's because they have the random variable present in their sentence and an experiment. And also the capital letter. Don't forget that. Okay. So we can move na. So we can move to sample space na. So sample space is the collection of all possible outcomes of a random experiment. So nilagay naman doon sa basic terms ng probability that in every experiment there's always an outcome, pero the outcome is not always the same. Okay, there are different outcomes in one single experiment. So our experiment, so this is like an example. So our experiment is tossing 2 coins. The random variable is h equals the number of heads that turn up. So paano naging yun, paano naging yung sample space natin is h, 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 t, t, h, t, t. So whenever we have like questions such as like 2 coins, basta something with coins, we usually use a tree diagram. So what is a tree diagram? So you put yun 2 sides of the coin, which is the heads and tails, and then you do this thingy, you like separate it, and then you put the heads and tails again. So this is a tree diagram. But since we have like 2 coins only, so dalawa lang. So ito, this is 1, this is 2. Yeah, this is already included 2. Oh my gosh. So yeah, sorry for the bulok in ratings ko. Well, it do be like that. So back with our with our tree, which is this one. Oh my gosh. So yeah, tree diagrams are very helpful when it comes to like questions that have coins in it. So from this palang, so our outcomes will be H, H, this one and this one, H, T, T, H, and T, T. So if you guys don't know, H is heads and T is tails. So therefore, when we toss 2 coins, our possible outcomes will be ang isang coin, both coins will be heads. 1 coin would be heads, one coin would be tails, 1 coin would be tails, one coin would be heads, and there's also a possibility that 2 coins would be tails. So yeah, I hope this is very clear, yung tree diagram. I don't even know how to explain it also. Basta you do this, like you put the heads and tails and then you separated more for heads and tails. But this is for 2 coins. Pero kapag tatlong coins or apat, for example, we're going to find 3 coins, we're gonna do this more. Something like that. It's very helpful because if we do it like mentally, especially kapag maraming coins yung hinahanap natin, yung sample space natin, there may be times na, siguro na-repeat mo na yun, or like marami ng coins na you can't really think of it straight in from the head. So tree diagrams will be helpful, and you can like see it on your module as well. So now we can go to mass points. So mass points are like the possible values of the random variables, and it is usually denoted by the corresponding lowercase letter of the random variable. So parang usually mass points are like numeric values. So same example lang, tossing 2 coins, random variable h, number of heads that turn up. So we've already concluded na yun sample space and outcomes natin is like this. So how do you get the mass points? So we put it in a table. So yes, excuse me. Yeah, excuse me again. So we put it in a table and then we put like the outcomes, the list of outcomes. So heads, 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 tails, tails, heads, and tails, tails. And since yung random variable natin is the number of heads, so we'll just pay attention sa heads, not the tails. So, and remember, like I said, yung mass points are usually presented as the lowercase letter of the random variable. So, since capital letter yun, capital letter H, ang random variable natin, so therefore, ang mass point would be like lowercase letter of the H. So, since our point here is the number of heads that turn up, that's like the most important thing that we should find. So from this outcome, so we've concluded na a possible outcome would be 2 heads. So therefore, lalagay natin dalawa. An explanation kasi dalawang heads. And for example, heads, if there's also a possible outcome that it could be heads and tails. Therefore, isa lang yung head. Because we're like focusing on the head instead of the tails. We can't like put one head, one tail. One head, one tail. No. We only focus on the head because ito yung importante. Ito yung nakalagay sa random variable, so we should focus on that. And since isa lang yung h dito from the possible outcome, therefore isa lang. So one head. Also the same sa other one, which is one head, one h. And the last outcome, which is 2 tails, so walang head. No heads. So therefore, kapag lalagay natin, oh yeah, also don't forget the curly bracket. Yes, curly bracket, 0, 1, 2. Bakit di nag-repeat with 1? Because it's like already as 1 na siya. So we can't really repeat another one. So we can't say na 0, 1, 1, 2. That will be wrong. So consider it as 1 if nag-repeat yun, yung number, the numeric value of the mass point ng heads. So another example, so we have random variable. M is equals to number of math books picked when picking 3 books at random from group of 4 math books and 3 science books. So how to find it is simply, so since we're picking 3 books and we're picking math books, okay? Math books, 3 math books. Oh, we know. Yeah, we're picking math books and we're picking 3 books at random from a group of 4 math books and 3 science books. And since we have like 4 math books and we're just like finding 3, so we can say na sa first pa lang, the possible outcomes would be 3 math or 0 science. So it's very, very important when it comes to like these types of questions is like the number desired from the random variable and like the values na nilagay na sa sentence. I'll explain this afterwards. So possible outcomes is 3 math books since we're picking 3 books and we have like 4 math books and 3 science books. So a possibility, would be that all of these books would be 3 math books. So as we can lagay natin dito, therefore, and then our mass points would be 3 because we're finding for like the number of math books. Another possibility would be there would be 2 math books and 1 science book. Therefore, our mass point would be 2. And then 1 math book and 2 science books, so mass point is 1. 0 math books and 3 science books, so 0. So therefore, our mass point would be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So, what I mean, yun sinasabi ko na importante talaga yun pag when it comes to like this part, like the picking the desired number that you want to get from the fixed examples sa random variable. Because what if, wait lang, let me erase this because it's messy. So what if, no. So what if hinihingi when picking, oh my gosh, what was that? Okay. Okay, let's not mind that. Oh, never mind. Okay. So, what if magpili tayo ng 5 books? Okay, let's pretend it's 5. So, what if we're picking 5 books at random from a group of 4 math books and 3 science books? So, we can't force like this math book to be 5. Di natin pwede lagay ng 5 math and 0 science kasi yun fixed yung fixed or like rather given na nakalagay sa random variable is we have 4 math books and 3 science books. Therefore, wait, let me erase this. Therefore, we can say, we can like write out the maximum value of the math books, which is 4. So 4 math, and then 1 science. Bakit may 1 science pa? Because we're picking 5 books. Kailangan lagay natin 4. There's only 4 when we're like literally picking 5. So that's like one of the possible outcomes. Another one would be same lang, which is 3 math, 2 science. Dapat match siya sa sa desired values that you want to get from a certain fixed group kind of thing. So 2 math and then 3 science. And another thing dito, we also have 3 science books, hindi 4. So we cannot write 1 math book and 4 science books. Di natin pwede i-force siya. So therefore, ito lang yung natin, yung sample space natin. So it would be for this like type of situation, because this might happen sa exam, you may never know, but there is possibility. Why not? So format, okay, picking 5 books from a group of 4 math books and 3 science books. So we can't put 5 math books because we don't have 5 math books. So we put 4 math books and 1 science books. Kasi we're getting 5, okay? We cannot just put 0 science, okay? And same din, dapat yun kapag kapag i-add mo yun 4 plus 1, maging 5 siya. So 3 plus 2, 5, 2 plus 3, 5. And we cannot write 4 science books because we don't have 4 science books. We only have 3. So that's like the point that I really wanna make. And since so paano yun math point natin? So since we're like talking about math books, so our math point would be 2, 3, and 4. Please don't mind my writing. And I also, oh yeah, before I forget, usually the math points should be written in ascending order. Okay, remember that. So therefore, for this specific na problem, na what if marami yun, what if ganito yun, natin, yung problem natin. Therefore, our math point would be 2, 3, 4. Yes, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, this is like a possible thing, and I hope that I make sense afterwards. Oh, so yeah, this is the end of our lesson 1, and I hope you guys learned something. Hello everyone, this is Roxanne, your study buddy for this Math 112 Statistics and Probability lesson video. So for today, we're going to discuss lesson 2 titled Probability Distribution. So what is the meaning of probability distribution? So probability distribution is the set of all mass points with their corresponding probabilities. So we've already like tackled about yung meaning ng statistics and probability, yung basic terms of statistics and probability. We've also tackled about random variables, complete random variables. We've also talked about sample spaces, the possible outcomes, and the mass points. So with all of those data that we've gathered, the mass points, the sample spaces, with the sample spaces and mass points, yes. So for this lesson, we're going to create a probability distribution. So with the mass points that we've gathered, we're going to have their corresponding probabilities for this lesson. So we're going to discuss next is the properties of probability distribution. So these are like important things that you have to look, important things that a probability distribution has to have, or else it's not a probability distribution. So it's really important to check if ever in probability distribution is a real probability distribution. So first is how to determine if distribution is a probability distribution. It has to have a non-negativity property. So what is this non-negativity property? That means there are no negative probabilities. So dapat yung numbers na nakalagay sa probabilities, the probabilities of the mouse points must not be negative, because I think that whenever there's like a negative number, that means that uh, the outcome is non-existent, or it seems like as a fail. I've already mentioned this in the last video, that there are different outcomes in one experiment, but there can never be like there can never be like a single outcome that has a negative probability, because it will deem as fail. I mean, that's what I think. So that's why a non-negativity property is very important in a probability distribution. So if ever may negative number sa distribution na yun, that means that distribution is not a probability distribution. Another important property for a probability distribution is a norming property. So the total probability is 1 or 100%. So if we add all of those corresponding probabilities, we, if we add all of those probabilities, dapat siya equal to 1 or 100%, because it should be equal to 1 or 100%, because if we say like, oh, if we add all of those probabilities and it's equal to 150%, it's not a probability distribution. The probability distribution must be equal to 1 or 100%. Kapag di siya equal to 1, kapag di siya equal to 100%, therefore, yung distribution na yun, di siya probability distribution. So these two properties, the non-negativity property and the norming property, is very important when it comes to determining whether or not the distribution is a probability distribution, and we should really keep this in mind. So we're gonna go to the types of probability distribution. So we have PMF and PDF. So PMF, the other name for PMF is the probability mass function. So this probability distribution is for discrete random variables, and it is expressed in tabular, graphical, and formula forms. So for this lesson, we're going to focus more on probability mass function instead of probability density function. So yes, keep that in mind. And probability density function, aka PDF, is for continuous random variables, and it is expressed in graphical and formula forms. So these two are like the two types of probability distribution, but for this lesson, we're going to focus more on probability mass function, or PMF. So yes, I have this thingy-majiggy, so we're going to like determine whether or not these two distributions is a probability distribution or not. So we're gonna check if it's like a valid probability distribution or not. So first, we're going to apply yung non-negativity property. So dapat check natin each numbers if there is like a negative. So far, so number 1, there is no negatives, and for number 2, there's no negatives. Therefore, these two distributions pass the non-negativity property. So now we can go to the norming property, like the addition of all probabilities dapat is equal to 1 for it to become a probability distribution. So for this part, if we add all of this, since we have a common denominator, we can just add like the numerator. So 1 plus 2 is equals to 3, and 3 plus 1 is equals to 4. So 4 over 4 is equals to 1. Therefore, this one is a valid probability distribution. You might be wondering, bakit ko inad dito instead of like this one? If you guys always remember, mass points are usually denoted in lowercase letters. So this is a lowercase letters, therefore These are all mass points in 0, 1, and 2. But the point of probability distribution is that we add all of the probabilities of the mass points instead of the mass points themselves. Because if we add all of these, hindi siya magiging 1. So, the important thing to add is this one, denoted. So, because usually probability of a probability distribution, or like probability of a mass point, is usually denoted as P of the lowercase letter. So since H is the lowercase letter for the mass point, therefore the probability of the mass points should be written as P of H. So these are like the probability for the mass points H. So we just add yung probability. Ito yung focus natin. So for this probability distribution yung nasa left, this is a valid probability distribution. So it's a very real probability distribution because when we add all of these probabilities is equals to 1. So therefore it is valid. Now we're going to go to the second part. So here, since they have the same denominator, we can just add the numerator. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equals to 3/4. So 3/4 is not equal to 1. 3/4 is not equal to 1. Therefore, yung probability, yung distribution dito is not valid. So this distribution is not considered as a probability distribution. So the point, to conclude this part, so we've mentioned that there are two properties of probability distribution. So there is the non-negativity and there is the norming. So two of these distribution pass the non-negativity property kasi walang negative numbers sa table. Walang negative numbers sa mga mass points. Walang negative, importantly, walang negative numbers sa probability themselves. And then, for the first distribution, it is a valid one because it passes the norming property, which means that the probability is equal to 1. The sum of all probabilities is equals to 1. Therefore, it is a valid probability distribution, while yung second one, di siya valid kasi, or we can't like say na, we can't consider it as a probability distribution because when we add all of these probabilities, it's equal to 3/4, and 3/4 is not equal to 1. Therefore, the number 1 is valid and number 2 is not valid. So we're gonna go na sa constructing the probability mass function. So before, because I already mentioned in we're gonna focus on PMF, then PDF. PDF is gonna come in for the next lessons to come. So before constructing the probability mass function, we must first write ano yun, sample space and mass point, because these two are very, very important. So this is the same problem that we had last time, which is the random variable h is equals to number of heads that turn up when a pair of dice is tossed. It was kind of like that. So we've concluded from the last session na yung sample space natin is HH, HT, TH, TT, wherein H is the tails and no. Oh my gosh, excuse me. H is the heads, T is the tails. And then and then the mass points is 0, 1, and 2. So we've already discussed this naman. Like we've already put it on the table. Here are the list of outcomes. Here are the mass points. Bakit siya naging 2? It's because we're focusing on the number of heads, not the tails. So how many heads are there? So we just write it down. And then bakit isa lang yun 1? It's because we call numbers that have like repeated outcomes that have repeated numbers should be written once kapag lalagay na natin sa set ng mass point. And this is very important, okay? The capital should be there, okay, in sample spaces. And also the mass point, which is denoted as the lowercase letter of the random variable. So we're going to go in na sa probability distribution. So this is in tabular form. Right here, this is in tabular form. So first, how do we do that? Is to list muna yung mass points natin in ascending order. So we have 0, 1, and 2. And now, for the right side, we're going to put the probabilities, which is denoted as P of H. So, bakit siya naging 1, 4? If we look at the table that we made during for our last lesson, we can see na yung 0 isa lang. So what do you mean by the numerator is like the number of zeros that we have in our outcomes. In our outcomes. So as you can see, isa lang yung zero natin. Out of all outcomes, isa lang yung zero natin. Therefore, yung numerator is 1. And bakit 4 siya? Because we have 4 outcomes, which is H, 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 T, T, H, T, T. And then, if we add all of these are 4. So, yun probabilities dito, like the numerator, is the number of the number of times it's repeated over the overall outcomes. So, for 0, it's 1/4 kasi isang lang yung 0 natin, isang time lang nangyari na walang heads. And over 4 kasi 4 outcomes, you have 4 outcomes. For mass point number 1, we have 2/4. Bakit 2/4? Because we have the outcomes H, T, and TH. And these outcomes have one head. So they have like the they have like the same number. So therefore, sinabi ko naman kanina like the number of times it happens. So bakit siya naging 2? It's because we have 2 1s. So it happened twice. So therefore, we're going to write sa probability 2 as a numerator and over 4 because we have 4 outcomes. And the same lang sa number 2, which happened once only, which is the mass point 2, the mass point 2, which pertains na 2 heads ang outcome. It only happened once out of 4. So to create like a tabular form for this probability mass function or like probability distribution, I would say, the numerator must be the number of times it happened. So bakit siya naging 1? Because it happened once. Bakit siya naging 2? Because it happened twice. Bakit siya naging 1 ulit? It's because it happened once. And for the denominator, we only have the total outcome. So we only have 4 total outcomes. So we should put 4 as our denominator. So that's how we formulate our tabular form for the probability mass function or the probability distribution. So now we can move on sa graphical form. So paano natin gawin yung graphical form? So we can base our values sa tabular form na ginawa natin kanina, which is 0, the mass points with 0, 1, and 2, with their corresponding probabilities with 0 to 1/4, 1 to 2/4, and 2 to 1/4. So the graphical form should be in histogram. So yeah, you can see the difference between histogram and bar graphs is that they like visually they can the bar graphs have like spaces between them while histograms don't. And usually parang may category yung bar graphs than in histograms that we use right now. Numerical value siya. So to create like a histogram of this tabular form, or like to create this tabular form into a graphical form, I would say, is to first write muna yung mass points sa x-axis, so sa baba. So we have our mass points 0, 1, and 2. And you could like write mass points lowercase h. I don't think it's like needed, but just write it so that your teacher could know. And then for the y-axis, these are our probabilities na. Yun na yun, the probabilities of the corresponding ano of the corresponding mass points. So we have 1/4, we have 2/4, we have 3/4, we have 4/4. But because we have like one fractions here, but you can also rewrite them as percentage, you know. So we can write 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. It depends on you if you want to like write it as percentage or write it as a fraction. And then from our tabular form here, it acts as a guide. So sa hanggang saan yun mga boxes. So as we've mentioned naman, 0, the mass point 0 has the probability of 1/4. Therefore, yung square niya mag-hit, yung square, like ini, na jingi. So, it must hit sa 1/4. Same din sa sa other mass points. So, 1 with 2/4, 1 with 2/4, and 2 to 1/4. So, ganito yung graphical form. And it's the same as the one below. So, 1/4 is 25%. If you don't know how to like calculate like calculate the percentage, you can just multiply 100 to 1/4. So 1/4 times 100, you can just get your calculator for that. So which is 25%. So same din, 2/4 times 100, which is 50%. So dapat naka-align siya sa 50%. And same din sa 2/4, which is just 25%. So the graphical form is on you, especially sa probabilities, the listing of probabilities. You can like write it as 2/4 una, 2/4, and then 4/4 diretso. Pwede isa-isa, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Or pwede gawin mo percentage, which is 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. But the important thing is that yung probabilities dapat nasa nasa y-axis siya, while yung mass points should lie on the x-axis. And it should match sa tabular form ginawa natin. So kapag 1/4 siya, dito 1/4 din naka-align yung mga boxes sa histogram natin. So now we can move on sa formula form. So I just wrote this na lang just in case you've forgotten. So h equals number of heads that turn up. So we can just create our formula base sa tabular form. So we write our formula form through a piecewise function. So p of h is equals to 1/4 if h is equals to 0 or 2, because they have similar values for this probability. Since yung 0 is 1/4, 2 is 1/4, therefore lalagay natin isang 1/4. But we've mentioned na yung mass points naka-align sa 1/4 is 0 and 2. So p of h is equals to 1/4 if h is equal to 0 or 2. While p of h is equals to 2/4 if h is equals to 1, kasi siya lang yung naka 2/4 dito. So that's how we write our formula form for this probability distribution. So you might be wondering bakit we have to like create different forms of probability distribution. We can like, what's the point of having this type of thingy? So because there are like questions such as yun like the one like statistical questions such as like what is the percentage rate of like engineering of STEM students that will take engineer in the college. It's something like that. Like it makes it easier for us to determine na ilang percentage or ilang anong number of probabilities that would happen at this point, you know. So this might happen. So question, what is the probability that at least one head will turn up when tossing 2 coins? So you can like for our answer, you can base it either sa graph natin, sa tabular form, or sa ano natin, sa formula form. But we're just going to base it sa tabular form. Okay? So, when we say at least, when we say at least, oh wait, where's my... So when we say at least, that means it pertains na it the probability would be greater than or equal to. You know what? Just base it here. So when we say at least, that pertains na yun yun h natin, yun mass point natin for the heads should be greater than or equal to 1. Kapag at most siya, oh my gosh. Kapag at most siya, it pertains na less than or equal to, which is the opposite of at least. So yeah, just saying lang because what you might be wondering, bakit siya naging ano, p of 1 plus p of 2. It's because of the word at least, which pertains na greater than or equal to. Kapag at most yan, for example, what is the probability that at most one head will turn up when tossing 2 coins? Therefore, pinapertain yan less than or equal to 1. So, if we say at most siya, if we wrote at most dito, therefore, yung lalagay natin dito is p of 0 plus p of 1 because at most pertains that it should be that our mass point, should be less than or equal to the 1 head. But other than that, let's focus na sa ano natin, sa at least, which is greater than or equal to 1. So, if we write it here, so p of h is greater than or equal to 1 is equal to p of 1, since greater than or equal, plus p of 2. Walang p of 3 because it's not hindi siya kasali sa mass points natin. So, we can just substitute what is p of 1. P of 1 here, p of 1 pertains to 2 of 4, and p of 2 is equals to 1/4. So, if we add these two together, it's equals to 3/4, or approximately 75%. Therefore, the probability that at least one tail, no, it should be heads. Okay. Yes, scratch that. Okay, therefore, the probability that at least one head will turn up is 3/4, or 75%. So, it's very helpful now. We have like different forms of probability distributions for probability mass functions, or PMF. Kasi it's helpful for us to determine like the correct answer for these types of questions, like what is the probability that at least blah 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 blah, or what is the percentage blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's very helpful. So now we can like move on to another example. So now we have dice example. So our example number 2 is random variable n is equals to the sum of numbers that turn up when 2 6-sided dice are rolled. So we can create like a table here, and then we can write like, since we're like rolling 2 dice with 6 sides, therefore you can see like sa figures dito, like there's like boxes and stuff. So this one is for dice 1. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 6. So dice 1 has 6 sides, and the second dice has also 6 sides because we're rolling 2 6-sided dice. And then what we're finding for is the sum of the numbers that turn up. So therefore, paano natin gagawin yan is to simply, so we look at this part, so we look at dice 2 and we look at dice 1. So what if nag-roll tayo and then it showed up 1 and 1. So therefore, we add these two together because we're finding, rather than finding, like the random variable says sum of the numbers that turn up. So kapag dalawang 1s dalawang ones nag-show up. If we add these two together, so it could be 3. That's a 3. Excuse me, 2. It could be a possibility that, yeah, it could be a possibility that the two six-sided dice sets will both turn up as 1, and then if we add them together, we write it as 2. So, same lang dito. What if si dice 2 naging, dice 2, if we roll it, naging 2 siya, and while dice 1 is still 1. So, if we add these two together, we get 3. And then, what if yung dice 2, naging 3 siya if we roll, and 1 lang yung dice 1. So, overall, for all of these corners, you draw an imaginary L, I would say. L, you add this to ganito. Parang like that. So you add all of this in the shape of the letter L. So all of these like outcomes here. What is that? So all of these outcomes here, like 2, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, yeah. These all outcomes. These are all like the possible outcomes that would come up. And always remember, yung na variable natin is the sum of the numbers. So don't forget to add all of this. So after doing that, we get all of our sample space. So our sample space natin is 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, and so on. So our mass point n, lowercase n, is equals to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Bakit walang 1? Because there is no 1 in our possible outcomes here on this table, because all of these are like some of the numbers that turn up. So, wala man dice na may 0. Yeah. Walang dice na may 0 that would, and if you add them together, it would become 1. So, there is no 1. And always remember na kapag repeated siya a lot of times sa sample space, you don't have to repeat it sa mass points. You'll only write the common variables, I would say. So instead of like lagay natin 3 ulit or 4 ulit, just write like the important numbers that come up without repeating it, okay? So be careful when you're writing like mass points. Never repeat numbers. So now, we can go to our tabular form. So, gagawin na naman tayo tabular form. So, list of all mass points sa left side or right side if you prefer that, whatever. As long as you can create this tabular form. So, I've written like the mass points, the list of my mass points on the left side, while on the right side is the probability of it. So, ilang times na nangyari yung number 2 is only 1 because we have 1 here. 1, 2. So, 1 over 36. Bakit 36 siya? Because if we multiply this 6 times 6, or if we like count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 columns, so 6 times 6 is equals to 36. Therefore, there are 36 outcomes. So, dapat over 36 sila lahat. And yung numerator natin is the number of times that it happened. So, 2, isa lang yung 2 natin, so 1 lang. For 3, dalawang times because we have 3 here and we have 3 here. Same with 4, it happened 3 times naman. So, 4, 4, 4. So, we write on our probability, the probability of the mass point, 3 of 36. You can also simplify this. You can put it as 1 over 18. You can also put it as 1 over 12. It's really up to you, but I just wrote it 1 over 36 lahat so that it could be simple and it could be like easier to for our lesson 3, which is our means, finding the means and such. So same with number 5. It happened 4 times because we have 4 5s in our possible outcome table. So same with 6, 5 times, 7, 6 times, and 8, 5, 9, 4, 10, 3, 10, 11, 2, and 12, 1. So, dapat lahat sila over 36, and yung number of times it happened as their numerator. So, now we can move on to the graphical form. So, you may notice, oh my gosh, bakit may space siya konti? But, you know what? Let's just pretend that it's very stick together. So, bakit siya nag-stop dito? Bakit siya nag-stop dito sa 6 over 36? Like I said, it really depends on your preferences, I guess. When it comes to like graphical forms, you can either write it as yung starting point pa lang 2, or yung starting point na lang 4, like 4, 8, 12, 16, type of thing. You could also write it like lahat talaga, 1 over 36. But you can also write it like this. Like ano yung highest number for their probability. So hanggang dito lang siya. And then we've put like an ellipsis here that acts as a shortcut instead of like writing 7, 8, 9 kasi magiging malaki na yung graph natin. So we can just put an ellipsis here, and then for the ending part, it should be 36 over 36 or equal 36 over 36. So you can also write it as 1 over 12, 1 over 30, 1 over 30, 1 over 12, something like that. You can also just do it on your preferences, whatever. You can also do it as percentage form. It's not really up to you. But the most important thing is that probability should be in the y-axis and the mass points should be written in the x-axis. So now we can move on sa formula form. So, base sa sa tabular form natin, we can write na the formula form. So, P of n is equals to 1 over 36 if n is equal to 2 or 12, since 2 and 12 have the same like value for their probabilities. Therefore, sa formula form, 1 over 36 if n is equal to 2 and 12. Same din with the other numbers, except for number 7, kasi siya lang yung naka 6 over 36. And then now we can answer like questions. So for this question, what is the probability that the sum of less than 5 will turn up when rolling a pair of 6-sided dice? So we're finding for values that are less than 5. So what is less than 5 here? So 4, 3, 2, and 4, 3, 2. Oh wait, no, I'm like really pointing at the probability. I'm talking about the mass points. Sorry. So we only have 4, 3, and 2. Okay, we're pointing here. Okay, don't be like me. Don't point at the probabilities. But so yes, so ito yung mass points na less than 5. So what do we do is that we add them. So what is P of 4? P of 4 is 3 of 36. P of 3 is 2 over 36, and P of 2 is 1 over 36. So you can, like I mentioned naman kanina lang, like you can either base it sa graph or you can have your tabular form with you. You can either base it sa formula form. It really depends on you. As long as the graphical form, the tabular form, or like the formula form are correct, and also yung pagkasolve mo dito. So if we since we have like same denominators, we can just simply add the numerator. So 3 plus 2 plus 1 is equals to 6. Or you can simplify it as 1, 6. Or you can make it as a, you can like write it in percentage form. So you have to multiply 100. 100. And then we can conclude that the probability that a sum less than 5 will turn up when tossing a pair of 6-sided dice is 1 over 16, or approximately 16.17%. So now, for this sample na naman, for this sample na naman, we have sample 3. Sample 3 here is very different from all of those samples that we've had. Special case siya, because it involves combinations. So we have a random variable. So R is equals to the number of red marble when 2 marble are chosen at random from a group of 4 red marble and 5 yellow marbles. So we're going to write our outcomes, mass points, and yung combination. Actually, this combination part, kind of acts as the tabular kind of form, but I'm just writing it na lang. But this is not the official tabular form. This is just like the tabular form for our possible outcomes. So we have outcomes. So the first outcome is that the two marbles are zero red, so they're yellow. So we have two yellow marbles for the first outcome. So since we're talking, a random variable is pertaining to red marbles, therefore sa outcome na ito, wherein two marbles are not red, so our mass point is 0. And for the next outcome, which is one red and one non-red, so since we have one red marble, therefore our mass point should be 1. And then we're going to have two reds as our next outcome. So that pertains that the mass point is 2 because we have two reds. So bakit to? Bakit may ganito? Bakit may multiplication pa ganyan? So we can't just total it na 0/4 because we have like a value. We have like a given value na nilagay. And since we're like choosing two marbles at a group of 4 red marbles and 5 yellow marbles, we can't just say na over 9 yung possible outcomes. No. So we're going to use the formula in combination. So I don't know if familiar kayo sa combination formula. So we have n taken r. So Rn is like the total number of the item, while R is like the desired number that we're going to take. So so is equals to n factorial over R factorial times the quantity of n minus R factorial. So paano natin ginawa yun? Bakit siya naging 36 yun? Ano natin? Yung total outcomes. This is already included as the total outcome. So we're going to plug in yung 9 as our n and 2 as our r. So if we plug them in, magiging ganito siya. So 9 factorial over 2 factorial times the quantity of 9 minus 2 factorial. So we're gonna subtract 9 minus 2, 9 factorial, 2 factorial, so yeah, 9 factorial over 2 factorial times 7 factorial. So when it comes to this naman, how to like, I don't know if you still remember factorials and permutations such as that. So if we say like 2 factorial, so we're saying na 2 times 1. If we say 3 factorial, which is 3 times 2 times 1, and so on. Parang same ang ganyan. So the number one trick, I would say, when it comes to like these types of questions, the 9 factorial over 2 factorial times 7 factorial. So the one thing I would say is to pick the one with the greatest number of factorials, which is 7 factorial, because 7 factorial is like 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Whereas sa 2 factorial, 2 times 1 lang siya. So how do we cancel? So the first things first is to determine the greater number of factorial, which is like 7 factorial. And then we're going to since sinabi ko naman kanina na yung 9 factorial, like the number of factorials should be multiplied with the lesser numbers. So if we were to like cancel 7 factorial, so we have to like expand yung 9 factorial natin. So since 9 factorial is just 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, instead of writing all of those, we can just simply write 9 times 8 times 7 factorial. Kasi 7 factorial is just the same as saying 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So it's easier for us to cancel out. And we can also we can also expand 2 factorial, which is 2 times 1, or just simply 2. So after like canceling 7 factorial, so we only have 9 times 8 over 2 times 1. We can just ignore the 1, but yes, we can also cancel 2 to 8, since 8 divided by 2 is 4. Therefore, ang answer natin is 36. So this will be the same method applied sa part nito for the probabilities for the mass points. So just apply that. So bakit siya naging 36? It's because we've applied the formula for combination. So we just input the you just substitute. So n is like the total number. Bakit siya 9? Because we have 9 marbles. Okay, let's just generalize it. 9 marbles, okay? Let's not mind the color. And since we're choosing 2 marbles, therefore 9 taken 2. Therefore our n, which is like the total number, since we have 9 marbles, 4 plus 5, 9. Then we can just put 9 dito sa mga n factorial. We can substitute it as 9. While sa r, which is the desired number that you want to take from a group. So since our random variable sinabi na 2 marbles are chosen. So we can substitute r as 2. So substitute that, plug that in, do the math, and never forget na yun factorials are like just multiplication of the lesser values. So after like doing the math and all of that, so we go back, we like find the greater number for the factorial. So we can't, you can cancel 2 sa 9, but it will take it longer. So we're just gonna get the bigger number, which is a 7 factorial. So we expanded the 9. How do we bakit siya nag-expand? So that we can cancel the 7 factorial, because 9 factorial is just 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Instead of like writing everything from the factorial 9, we can just simply write it as 9 times 8 times 7 factorial, so that we can cancel 7 factorial to the denominator, which has 7 factorial. And then we can also expand yung 2 factorial, which is just 2 times 1. And then we cancel 2 with the 8, and then the 8 becomes 4. And then since it's just 1, so 1 is since we have like 1 as our denominator, it can be simplified as the whole number. So 9 times 4 is equals to 36. So that's our total outcomes for this combination. So it's kind of the same din yun way of solving para dito. So bakit siya naging, wait lang. Oh. Okay. So bakit siya naging 4 taken 0 times 5 taken 2? Okay. So we have our outcome, 0 red and 2 non-reds. So just a reminder that our 4 marbles, 4 red marbles, is 4. And since our outcome here, which is 0 red and 2 non-red, we can say that the total number, like I mentioned, n is the total number of the marbles, and the r is like the desired number that you want to take. But since for this outcome we have 0 red and 2 non-red, therefore 4 taken 0 times 5 taken 2, because we have 2 non-reds and we have the non-reds here, which is the yellow. You can just simply say yellow, is 5. So we have 5 yellow, but we only take 2. So you can do the math. You can do this na naman, do this, and then if we multiply it together, it's gonna turn 10. So same lang din dito. 1 red and 1 non-red. So 4 taken 1 because bakit? Because for this outcome we've taken 1 red marble from the group of 4 red marbles times 1 non-red, so group of 5 yellow, taken only 1 for this outcome. So if we multiply it together, it's gonna turn into 20. And now for our last outcome, which is 2 red and 0 non-red, which is the opposite of our first outcome here. So 4 taken 2, bakit 4 taken 2? Because our red marbles, the total number of red marbles is 4, and we only take 2. And we take 2 for this outcome, for this specific outcome, okay? Times 5 taken 0, because there is no non-red or there is no yellow marble that we've picked for this outcome. So if we multiply it together, we do the math, we input or substitute the values of these combinations and then solve it, so it's equal to 6. So now we can like construct in tabular form na. So how is the tabular form? So like I said, yung 9 taken 2 is equals to 36. Ito yung yung total number of outcomes. So that means since yung 36 yung total number of outcomes, therefore our denominator must be 36. While these yung na-solve natin dito, the 10, the 20, the 6, we can treat it as our numerator for the probabilities of the mass points. So 0, mass point 0 has the probability of 10 over 36. Bakit 10? Because we've already solved it kanina pa. 10. So 10 times yun nag-happen siya. Or like from the solving, we have the value of 10. So we can already state it as our numerator na. Over 36, which is the total outcomes that we have. Same din sa number 1, we have 20 over 36, and 2, 6 over 36. And kapag di kayo sure sa solvings ninyo, you can add this. So since we have like the common denominator, we can just simply add a numerator. So 10 plus 20 plus 6 is equals to 36 over 36. So 36 over 36 is equal to 1. So the probabilities must be equal to 1 because it's a part of the property. If you still remember the norming property, that the norming property says that the probabilities should be equal to 1. So if we add all of these, dapat equal to 1. Pero kapag equal to 1/8, 1/3, something like that, negative, blah, blah, blah. Basta hindi siya equal to 1, therefore, there is something wrong with your solution dito for the combination. So make sure, if ever di kayo nag-discuss sa answers niyo, just add them all, and if it becomes 36, therefore it's correct na. If it becomes, if you add all of these probabilities and it's equal to the total outcomes, then it's correct na. So you can write it na sa tabular form, which is in fraction. So to graph, same lang, like I said, preferences and whatnot. So I've already written it as 5 over 36. Yeah, 5, 10, 15, 20, 2, 36. Ellipsis. Yeah, never forget yun, denominator natin. I actually don't know why I put like the possible outcomes here instead of the tabular form. But if we look at the tabular form here, so we have 0 as 10 over 36, 1 as 20 over 36, or 2 as 6 over 36. So they should not reach 0. I mean, you can just simply see here sa side. So always remember na yun sa x-axis natin is mass points, and sa y-axis is the probabilities. So we can now write it the formula form. So 6 over 36, if r is equals to 2, because we have 6, we have 6 here, and since this is 6, so we write it as our numerator and as our numerator all over our possible outcomes, which is 36. So same din dito, 10 over 36 if r is equals to 0, because it's 10 here. Excuse me, and 20 over 36 if r is equals to 1. I don't know if the listing of the numbers here must be ascending order, but I just wrote it like this, so you do you, I guess. I don't know, but that's how I wrote it. So another question for this is, what is the probability that no red marble will be chosen? So no red marble will be chosen, and since our random variable is the number of red marbles, therefore 0 yun mas points natin. So 0 red marbles that are chosen. So we can base it on our formula form, you can base it on our graphical form, you can base it on our tabular form, whatever you like to prefer, but as long as it's correct, your answers. So we can just simply substitute. So p of 0. So nakalagay dito, I mean, so p of r is equals to 10 over 36 if r is equals to 0. So since nakalagay dito p of 0, therefore our answer is 10 over 36, or we can easily simplify it as 5 over 18, or you can make it as a percentage, so multiply it to 100 and then magiging siya 27.78%. Therefore, the answer, like the probability that no marble will be chosen, is 5 over 18, or approximately 27.78%. Oh, yes, and that concludes our lesson 2, titled probability distribution. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hello everyone, so it's me, I'm back. It's Roxanne, your study buddy for this Math 112 Statistics and Probability lesson video. So for today, we're going to discuss lesson 3 of our Math 112, which is titled Mean and Variance of Discrete Probability Distribution. So just a disclaimer lang, I'm just gonna mention it now before I forget maybe later on. So what is the meaning of discrete probability distribution? Because I think I've never mentioned this on our last video parts, but if ever you guys are wondering, discrete probability distribution is another name for probability mass function, or PMF, if ever you guys have been wondering, because I've already mentioned this sa last video na we'll focus more on PMFs than PDFs for these lessons for our Math 112. So we're gonna start off na sa mean of the discrete probability distribution. So if x is a discrete random variables, the expected value or mathematical expectation of x is defined as the mu sub x. So if you guys have been wondering paano to i-pronounce, it's pronounced as mu. The spelling of it is mu. So mu sub x is equal to e of x is equals to the summation of x sub I multiplied to p of x sub I. So this is our formula for getting the mean of the discrete probability distribution, or PMF. So this is also referred, as the mean of the discrete probability distribution. So ito. So the mean represents the average of the data. So let's say that, for example, our mean is around 2.5. Let's say that. So with that being said, that means yung data natin, the average of the data would be around 2.5. So that's what means pertain to, refer as the meaning. So the one important thing for this formula is this one, yung x sub I and p of x sub I. Bakit siya importante ito dalawa? Because x sub I represents as the mass points. If you guys remember last two lessons, mass points multiplied to p of x sub I. So anong p of x sub I? It's the probability of the corresponding mass points. So paano natin isolve to? is to simply multiply the mass points to their corresponding probabilities, and then after that we add all of the all of the total values from this part. And then after all of those values, we can already determine ano yung mean natin. So now we can move on sa variance and standard deviation of the discrete probability distribution. So if x is a discrete random variable, the variance of x is defined as sigma squared sub x is equals to var of x, or variance of x, is equal to the summation of the squared quantity of x sub I minus the mu of x multiplied to the p of x sub I. So this formula is for variance of x. And the formula below here, this is the formula for standard deviation. Actually, there's really no difference between them. Like, as you can notice, the only difference is that yung variance of x, as you can see, it's sigma squared sub x, while sa standard deviation is sigma sub x lang. And it has like the whole square root things. So when we want to find out the standard deviation of this probability of this PMF, we first have to find out the variance muna, because it's easier, I guess you would say that. I mean, there really is no difference, but we would first find out the variance of the probability distribution, and then after finding out the probability the values, the values for the variance, we can just square root it, and then ano yung value that we get from the square root, that's already counted as our standard deviation. So we don't really have to like plug in, you can simply plug in here, but I think it would be better if we solve first the variance and then standard deviation. So like I said, kanina lang, like the most important thing here for this part of the variance and standard deviation is the x sub I and yun mu and yun p. These three are very important. So before finding out yung variance and standard deviation of the discrete probability distribution, we have first had to find out yung mu, because it's very important here. So x sub I, like I mentioned a while ago, mass points, mu of x. So after computing for the mu of x, we can already plug it here. And then the probability of x sub I, or the list of probabilities that corresponds with the mass points. So that's like the importance. And the variance and the standard deviation represent how spread out the data from the mean. So parang same siya sa example that I said, like yung mu natin, mu represents the average of the data. So the example was like 2.5. 2.5 is our average of the data. So while yung variance and standard deviation represent how spread out the data is from the mean. So gaano ka-spread yung data. So now we can already start with solving. Okay, so find the mean and standard deviation of the discrete random variable h. H is the number of heads when 2 coins are tossed. So it's the same problem that we've had for the last few lessons, but the difference is that we're finding for a different part. So we're finding for the mean and standard deviation. So this is our like formula for the mean. So we first step is to find the mean muna. Find the mean. And yeah, we also have like the variant here, the formula. So first we have to find the mean and standard, the mean muna. The mean, because we can't solve we can't solve for variance and we can't have like the value for the standard deviation if wala yung mu natin. So first we have to solve for mu. So how do we solve for mu? So first, from our previous lessons, first is list down yung mass points and yung probabilities. So, yung tabular form. Yung tabular form na minention ko last video. Just get that thingy and put it here. So, this is like the same problem that we had from the last video, which is the number of heads when 2 coins are tossed. So we have the mass point, lowercase letter h, 0, 1, 2. The probability of these mass points, the probability of 0 is 1/4, the probability of 1 is 2/4, and probability of 2 is 1/4. So after doing that, after getting the tabular form for the random variable, is next, we multiply. We multiply yung mass points and yung probability. So 0 times 1/4 is equals to 0. 1 times 2/4 is equals to 2/4. And 2 times 1/4 is equals to 2/4. So, you might be wondering, bakit di ko sinimplify lahat. I mean, you can just write it as 1/2, 1/2. I mean, it really depends on you, but the next step is very important. Okay, so after multiplying, okay, next step is to add them. Because like, nilagay dito, so after multiplying the mass points to its probability, corresponding probabilities, then we could add the summation of all inputs here. So what is our summation? So we add 0 plus 2/4 plus 2/4. So this is like one of the reasons why I didn't like simplify it, because we have common fractions that pertains na common yung denominator natin pero iba yung numerator. But with like the common ground, with having like the common denominator, it's easy for us to add them. So we just simply add 0, 2/4, 2/4. So 2/4 plus 2/4, since we have same denominator, so we can just simply write it as 4. So 2 plus 2 is equals to 4. So 4 over 4 is equals to 1. Therefore, our mu of h, yes, our mu of h is equals to 1. So after finding out the mu, we can simply go nasa variance. So the first step in variance is to first subtract yun mu to its mass point. So mass point h, 0. So yeah, okay. So first we start off with 0. So 0 minus 1. Since 1 yun ano natin, yun mu, so we subtract it. So 0 minus 1 is equals to negative 1. 1 minus 1 is equals to 0. And 2 minus 1 is equals to 1. So that's it. First step to. So subtract all mass points to the mu of the random variable. So after subtracting it, we can square it. So next step is squaring it. So negative 1, you square it. So negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. 0 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 is 1. So that's like, so you just simply square it now. And then after squaring it, we multiply it to the probability of the corresponding mass points. So P of H dito. So 1 times 1/4 is equals to 1/4. 0 times 2/4 is equals to 0. And 1 times 1/4 is equals to 1/4. And pagkatapos na gagawin nito, we're going to add them, okay? So 1/4 plus 1/4 is equals to 2/4. So therefore, our sigma squared sub h, or the variance of this random variable, is 2/4. So if we simplify it pa, 1/2, and then we'll create it as a decimal, so 0.5. And since we already have the variance, we can already solve the standard deviation. I already mentioned na same lang yung formula nila, pero yung difference is that there is square root. So how to find the standard deviation of a random variable is to simply just square root the value of the variance. So square root of 0.5 is approximately 0.7071. So therefore, our mean and standard deviation of this discrete random variable is 1 and 0.7071. So that's kind of easy, I would say. So yeah, I'm showing you by the way in a table, in a tabular form, rather than inputting yung numbers later. I mean, you can do that, but I think yung table mas organized siya because we have like I said, we have like different mass points, we have probabilities for it. So it's much better if we use it in a tabular form, and it's like really one by one so that you won't be lost. So we're going to go to our next example. So compute for the expected value and standard error of the discrete random variable s equals to s, that is equals to the sum of the numbers when two dice are rolled. So wait, you might be wondering, ano yung expected value and what is the standard error? So expected value and standard error is like another name for the mean and variant. Mean and standard deviation, I mean. So expected value is the mean, while the standard error is the standard deviation. Just so you guys know, kapag just so you guys won't be lost kapag ibang name na naman yun. Okay? Those are like other names for mean and standard deviation. So since we've already like had a tabular form for this specific random variable, then we just list it down muna. So it's very important to have the tabular form. So with the mass points S here listed, and its corresponding probabilities just listed as well. So first part, like I said naman, is to solve for the mu. Always start with the mu, and then I'll go to the variance, and then get the value for the standard deviation na. So first step is to multiply. Multiply yung mass points and its corresponding probabilities. So 2 times 1 over 36 is equals to 2 over 36. You can, like I mentioned naman a while ago, now you can also simplify it, but make it easier since we're going to add them anyways. We're going to add all of these. So to make it easier, just make sure na yung denominator is the same. So over 36 still sila lahat instead of like simplifying it. But as long as, if ever you simplify it, as long as you add them all and it's like the same number, it's okay. So like back to where we were talking about. So multiply the mass points to its corresponding probabilities. So 2 times 1 over 36 is 2 over 36. 3 times 2 over 36 is 6 over 36. 4 times 3 is equals to 12, and all over 36. 5 times 4 is equals to 20 over 36. 6 times 5 over 36, and so on. So we just multiply everything. And then the next part is to add all of these. So, oh yeah, actually, you can also wait, diba, na-mention ko, you can simplify it, blah, blah, blah. You can also simplify it as in decimal form. You can also do that. But I've already created it as a fraction form. So if you add all of this, 2 plus 6 plus 12 plus 20 plus 30, 42 plus 40, 36, 30, 22, 12, we could get to the answer 252 all over 36 because same lang man sila, there are similar fractions. And then if we simplify it, so it's equal to 7. Therefore, our mu for this random variable is 7. So you may notice na wala siyang mu of mu sub letter s. You can also write it like this. Yeah, there's another way. You can like simply write it as mu, or kung gusto nyo pang mas organized, you can just write it as mu sub s, capital letter. Okay, capital letter. Never forget that. If you're writing it that way, pero you can also write it as just like this, mu. So now, after finding out our mu, we can go to our variance. Okay? So, first step ng variance is to subtract our mu to the mass points. So, 2 minus 7 is equals to negative 5. 3 minus 7 is equal to negative 4. 4 minus 7 is equal to negative 3, and so on. Okay? Like, nakalagay dito, S minus mu. Okay? S, which is the mass point, minus mu. Okay? You cannot interchange it. Okay? You cannot interchange it, because if you interchange it, it's gonna be wrong. So, keep in mind, mass point minus mu. Mass point minus mu. So, after solving this, after having the subtraction of mu for all of the mass points, now we square it. So negative 5 times negative 5 is 25, negative 4 times negative 4, 16, negative 3 times negative 3, which is 9, and so on. So you just square all of these values, and then after squaring all of these values, we'll go back to our probability, the probability of the mass points, of the corresponding mass points. So 25, okay, 25 times 1 over 36 is equals to 25 over 36. 16 times 2 over 36 is equals to 32 over 36. Like I said, like I always say, you can simplify it, whatever you prefer. But for just the sake, para mag-save time, or rather to make it easy, just make it as similar fractions. So 9 times 3 over 36, 27 over 36, 4 over 36 times 4, 5 over 36 times 1, 6 over 36 times 0, and so on. So after solving these, after multiplying yung values dito to its corresponding probabilities of the mass points, we can simply add na this na. We can add all of these values. So once we add all of these values, we can come to the conclusion that our variance, or our sigma squared, is equals to 210 over 36. So if we divide it back, it's gonna be 5.8333. So to find the standard deviation is to simply square root the variance. So ano yung value dito, is square root mo lang yan. So therefore, yung standard deviation would be around 2.4152. So therefore, ang mean and standard deviation for this random variable is equal to 7 and 2.4152. So it's pretty simple, guys. So next, another combination na naman. So compute for the mean and standard error of the discrete random variable m is equals to number of males when 2 students are chosen at random from a group with 2 males and 3 females. So this is pretty different sa excuse me. Okay. This is different from our past problems, but still same. So we first write like the combination table, I would say, or the whatever this thing is called, but I'll just call it combination table for now. So we write the possible outcomes. So possible outcomes is no male chosen, 1 male and 1 non-male chosen, or just simply 1 female, 2 male chosen. Because we're talking about number of males and we're picking 2 students from a group with 2 males and 3 females. So kapag yung 2 students na yan are not male, so therefore our mass point is 0 because there's no male. And if ever those 2 students are 1 male and 1 female, therefore our mass point is 1. And kapag yung 2 students are males, are both males, so they are 2. So for the combination table, I hope you still remember like the thingy-majiggy, the formula for combination, which is, oh my god, the n factorial over r factorial multiplied to the quantity of n minus r factorial. So I hope you still remember that. So I'm not even going to go in detail because I already mentioned it sa past video. But so yes, 5 taken 2. Bakit siya 5 taken 2? Because if we add all of this, okay, let's generalize it, okay? So 2 plus 3, 5. So we have 5 students, okay? But the thing here is that in a random variable, we are only taking 2 students. So therefore, 5 taken 2 is equals to 10. Bakit 10? So you do this formula E. So 10 would be our total outcomes, total possible outcomes. And then, we can go na sa combination ng mga outcomes dito. So if there is no male chosen, therefore 2 taken 0. So since we have 2 males and diba, we're taking 2 students and the outcome is no male. So therefore our mass point is 0. And since we have the group has 2 males, therefore in this outcome, since there is no male chosen, so we simply write it as 2 taken 0. There's no male chosen. Multiplied to 3 taken 2. So these 3 are non-male, or aka females. So 3 taken 2 is equals to 3. So 3 would act as our numerator, while our 10 is like the possible outcome. So 3 yun ang possible outcomes for this outcome. That doesn't make any sense. But you know what? Just simply solve it, okay? So another possible outcome is 1 male and 1 female. So 2 taken 1, because there is 1 male, possible outcome na 1 male ang PPD. And 3 taken 1, because 1 female din ang possibility dito, because it's 1 male and 1 female. So if we do the math, it's equals to 6. And then same thing dito, 2 taken 2, because there are 2 male chosen. So yes, times 3 taken 0, because we didn't pick any females. And they're all, since we're picking 2 students and they're both males, so we're taking 0 for the female. So it's equals to 1. So after doing that, we can simply write the tabular form for this random variable. So mass point M, mass point, don't forget the small letter, okay? Denote it, okay? Mass point 0, 1, and 2, 0, 1, and 2, and simply write their corresponding probabilities. So for 0, we have 3 as our numerator and 10 as our denominator. Okay, just simply write it like that, okay? Because 10 is our possible outcomes, while 3 is like the number of times, I would say. But just simply write it as the numerator na ng diretso over yung total dito. So 0, the probability of 0 is 3 over 10. The probability for this mass point, 1 is 6 over 10, and 2 is 1 over 10. So after putting the tabular form, we can go now and solve for the mu. So the first step always for mu is to simplify, rather multiply, okay? Multiply the mass points and its corresponding probability. So 0 times 3 over 10 is 0. 1 times 6 over 10 is equals to 6 over 10. 2 times 1 over 10 is equals to 2 over 10. So after doing this, we can simply add these 3, I would say, values together. So 6 over 10 plus 2 over 10, because I've already made this as similar fractions. So similar fractions wherein the denominator is of similar value. So if we add this, 6 plus 2 is equals to 8 over 10, and then you can make it as a decimal, so 0.8 yun kalabasan niya. So after finding out the mu, we can go now to finding the variance of the random variable. So first step of finding the variance is to subtract yung mu natin sa mass points. So mass point 0 minus our mu, which is 0.8, is equals to negative 0.8. 1 minus 0.8 is 0.2. 2 minus 0.8 is equals to 1.2. So after collecting the values for this part, now we square them. So negative 0.8 times negative 0.8 is 0.64. 0.2 times 0.2 is 0.04. 1.2 times 1.2 is 1.44. So after squaring these values, we're going to go back to our corresponding probabilities and multiply them. So 3 of 10 times 0.64 is equals to 0.192. 6 over 10 times 0.04 is equals to 0.024. 1 over 10 times 1.44 is equals to 0.144. So after doing that, we can already add all of these together, and the value for that, and whatever the value for that, it will represent as the variance. So, but since we're finding for the standard error, or like the standard deviation of the random variable, we're going to square root the value for the variance. So since our variance, or like sigma squared, is equals to 0.36, so we find the square root of it, so 0.6. Therefore, for this problem, our mean for this discrete random variable is 0.8, while our standard deviation is 0.6. So that's pretty much it for this part. So now we can go on to our real life applications. So actually, what do you mean by real life applications? We can use mean, and we can use like the formula of it. We can use the mean and standard deviation, the variance, the formulas on determining like something with the events, okay? So, but usually when it comes to like mean and standard deviations, it's usually games, okay? So you determine whether the game is fair or unfair, or like their taxes are fair ba, something like that. Because I've already mentioned this starting pa lang, like statistics can be done to real life can be like applied to real life. So we can also apply yung formulas ng mean and like the standard deviation and variance to real life applications. But the real life applications are mostly in games such as like cards. So we first have a real life problem here. So a game that consists of drawing a card is from a standard deck of card. So its mechanics are as follows. So pay 30 pesos at the beginning of each round. You draw a card, and if a card is a face card, you will win 100 pesos. Otherwise, you lose. So determine that the game is fair. So we have two ways on determining whether or not this game is fair. So we have expected value. So this method for expected value, so we let x be the expected value of winning. And now we have the table here. So let x be the expected value of winning. Okay, so we write here win or lose. We have x here, which is the expected value of winning. So bakit siya naging 70? Why? It's because we've paid 30 pesos at the beginning of each round, because that's part of the mechanics. So we have to pay 30 pesos, and then if ever we win, it's 100. So parang it's our profit from the game itself. So include talaga yung pay 30 pesos from that part. So bakit siya 70 again? Is to simply subtract 100 to 30. Because why? Because we have to pay 30 pesos at the beginning of each round. So we cannot play the game kapag di tayo babayad una ng 30 pesos. So yes. So 70 na siya. 70 yung profit natin, because we have to pay 30 pesos to play the game. And then if we lose, so if we pay 30 pesos, so if we lose, so the event would be you lose 30 pesos, because before playing the game you have to pay 30 pesos. So we lose 30 pesos, which is negative 30. Now we write the probability of the expected value of winning, which is our x. So bakit siya naging 12 over 52? Because we have 52 cards in one deck. So we have 52 cards in one deck. And bakit siya 12? 12 because that's the number of faces in one deck, okay? Because uh, nakalagay dito sa mechanics that if the card that we draw is a face card, we will win. So, therefore, yung winning probabilities in the deck of cards would be the face cards. And how many face cards are there in a deck is 12 only. So 12 out of 52. That is our probability for winning. Now, while we're losing, we can just simply like subtract 52 minus 12, so which is 40 over 52. We can just do that. And then we can apply yung mu, the mu, okay? So we multiply 70 to 12 over 52, and we multiply negative 30 to 40 over 52. So it would be approximately, for the winning row, it would be approximately 16.15, while yung losing is approximately negative 23.08. So, diba, after multiplying the mass point and its corresponding probability, diba, we add them. So if we add them, our expected value will be negative 6.93. So what does this tell us? So if ever yung expected value natin is not equal to 0, so yung expected value natin, so if we add this to, is negative 6.93. Therefore, the game is unfair. Okay? So if our expected value, after doing this, we multiply the mass points to its probability and then we add them. So if yung kalabasan niya is 0, therefore, yung game is fair. Okay? Kapag 0 siya. Pero, if ever yung expected value natin, for example, in my case, which is negative 6.93, that is not equal to 0. Okay? As long as its like values is not equal to 0, therefore the game is unfair. So we can conclude that the game is unfair from this method, expected value. So we also have the other method, which is fair price. So let y be the fair price of the game. So for the difference between them is that we don't count the 30 loss. Okay? We don't count the 30 loss. So if we win, we get 100 pesos. Okay? You don't have to conclude you don't have to include yung 30 pesos. So if we win, okay, we gain 100 pesos. That's final, okay? So and if we lose, we don't gain 100 pesos. We only gain nothing. Okay? We gain nothing. But we don't have to like write yun minus 30. It's only the expected value. Okay? So that's like the difference between the fair price and the expected value. So the fair price, more on sa reward, I would say, ng game. So if we win, we gain 100 pesos. That's a reward. Okay? So if we lose, we don't have 100 pesos. So the probability would be the same as this one, because it's already stated sa mechanics ng game, is that if we win, if we draw a card, the card must be a face card before winning, okay? So, if we pick the face card, that means we will win 100 pesos. And how many faces are there in a deck is 12. And how many cards are there in a deck is 52. So that's why it's 12 over 52. It's the same as here. And 40 over 52 dito sa side kasi if we add these two together, it should be equal to 1, which is part of the norming property for the probability distribution. So after that, the next step, we're gonna use like the mu, the flow of the mu. Okay, so after finding the mass points and the probability of it, we are going to multiply. So 100 times 12 over 52 is approximately 23.0769, while 0 times 40 over 52 is equals to 0. So therefore, our fair price, so if we add them together, our fair price is 23.0769. And since di nagmamatch yung fair price sa given, which is 30 pesos, therefore, we can say that the game is unfair. So if yung fair price natin is lower, lower than the lower than the given, lugi yun customers because yun expected like fair price of for this game is 23 pesos only. But we're paying 30 pesos for it. So lugi yun mga players, okay? While kapag yung fair price natin is greater than 30, for example, our fair price is like 45 pesos, therefore, lugi yung owner ng play na yun. So, we can say from these two methods, it depends on you, which one would you pick, but these two methods have concluded that the game is unfair. So, that means the game is unfair, okay? So, next one. Okay, this is kind of the same as the last problem we have. The only difference is that, okay, the game consists of drawing one card from a deck of cards. If the card drawn is a face card, so Jack, something, I can't read. Jack Queen, or King, I guess. The player wins 100 pesos. Otherwise, he loses 30 pesos if minute the game is fair. So, the difference is that from our last problem, the mechanics of the game is that we have to pay 30 pesos to play the game. We have to pay, we have to pay 30 pesos to play the game. The difference for this one is that, di tayo babayad for the entrance, ganyan. We only play. So, if the card drawn is a face card, we win 100 pesos. So, the only time we lose 30 pesos when we draw, that is not a face card. When you draw a card, that's not a face card. But, the difference is that, yung first problem natin, we had to pay 30 pesos. We had to pay 30 pesos to start the game. Pero, sa situation na ito, the other example of this example, I mean, pertains na there is no payment for playing the game. You just play the game. So, if you win, you gain 100 pesos, and if you lose 30 pesos. So, we can just use the expected value. So, let x be the expected value of winning. So, bakit siya 100? Bakit siya 100? Yun, win. Di ba ano lang siya? Sa fair price? No. Okay. There is no pricing. Like I mentioned, like I really emphasize, now for this question, there is no payment for playing the game. So, there is no payment made before the game. You know what I mean? So, the only difference is that rather than paying 30 pesos to play the game, we pay 30 pesos after the game. Parang, di ba, for example, for this example, we just play the game with no entrance fee. So, if we draw a card, then kapag face card siya, we are going to win 100 pesos. We're going to win 100 pesos. Pero, kapag di face card yung draw natin, we're going to lose 30 pesos. So, there is no entrance. There is no like requirement na nilagay dito sa game na to for this situation to pay 30 pesos before like winning, okay? The only part we're going to lose is when we've already drawn the card. We've already played the game, and if the card drawn is not a face card, then we lose 30 pesos. So that's why walang subtraction dito for a win. Because we don't have like an entrance fee. We don't have to pay a certain amount of value to play the game for this problem. So if we win, we have 100 pesos because that's our price. And if we lose, we have a subtraction of 30 pesos. And that's it. Okay? And probability is the same as the ones that we have before, which is 12 over 52. Bakit siya 12 na naman? It's because we're going to win. Okay? We're going to win if we draw a face card. So how many face cards are there in a deck? There's 12. How many cards are there in a deck? 52. So 12 over 52, and then you can simply just subtract 52, 12, and that will be our numerator for this loose part. So 40 over 52. And then we can do the steps for solving the mu. So which is first is to multiply the mass point and your probability for it, and like its corresponding probability. So 100 times 12 over 52 is approximately 23.08. So in the losing side, losing row, I say losing row. Okay. So negative 30 multiplied to 40 over 52 is approximately negative 23.08. So if we add these two together, we'll get 0. Therefore, like I mentioned, like I mentioned before, kapag yung expected value natin is equals to 0, therefore, the game is fair. We could consider the game is fair. Okay? We don't have to solve for the fair price kasi walang pricing dito sa game. Okay? Like I already emphasized sa problem na ito, we don't have to pay 30 pesos to play the game. We just play the game. And we only lose 30 pesos kapag we draw the card and it's not a face card. So like after the game, we only lose after the game. So yeah, there is no loss for the starting of the game. Kasi sa first problem natin, requirement siya na 30 pesos yung payment to play the game and you win 100. Pero for this example, you just play the game, and if you win, you gain 100, and if you don't, then you lose 30 pesos. And that's it. So we can say, from this expected value, the game is fair because it's equal to 0, okay, in expected value. So the game is fair. And that concludes our lesson 3, titled Mean and Variance of Discrete Probability Distributions. So I hope you guys learned something. Thank you for watching.